Good evening. Welcome to this evening's legislative meeting. As you can see, we have a few folks not joining us tonight. Two of our council members, President Hall and Councilman Davidson, will not join us this evening. But I would like to start the meeting, so if we could please stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We'll start with the approval of the minutes of the July 2nd workshop minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the workshop minutes of July 2nd as submitted.
Is there? Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes for the July 2nd workshop meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. Also, approval of the minutes in the motion form for July 18th council meeting. Is there a motion made for that?
Madam Vice President, make a motion to approve the minutes of our council meeting of July 18th as submitted.
Second? Second. Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the July 18th council meeting minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Please say no. And the motion carries. Before we go into public comment and privilege of the floor, we do have a distinguished guest here this evening. Well, actually, several distinguished guests. But in particular, I'd like to ask the mayor if he would kindly do us a favor of proclamation for the NAACP Day of Commemoration. And Dr. Flynn?
Oh, what must I do?
Just join the mayor.
Right out here.
You have the pleasure of standing next to him.
Yeah, right. And I'm going to read most of them because I don't see anything here that if I leave it out, I think it hurts the flow a little bit. So if you don't mind, bear with me.
Thank you.
And this is the proclamation, and it reads, whereas 2013 marks the 50th anniversary of the intense struggle for civil rights as carried out in the United States during the summer of 1963, whereas in the spring of 1963, 19-year-old Dorothy Bell and 20 other college students held sit-ins at Birmingham, Alabama lunch counter and were arrested, whereas in April 1963, the Reverend Martin Luther King was arrested in Birmingham, Alabama during an anti-segregation protest, and whereas his incarceration, Reverend King wrote the famous letter from Birmingham jail that called the religious community across all denominations to join the fight for human rights and the people to disobey unjust laws. And whereas in May 1963, the children of Birmingham engaged in the Children's March, wherein children were arrested, held in jails, in cattle pens, and finally were assaulted by fire hoses and police dogs as they prayed for justice. And whereas the courage and suffering of these children tore down the rigorous, rigid walls of segregation in Alabama, and whereas in June of 1963, NAACP Mississippi State Conference President Medgar Evers was assassinated in front of his home for registering people of color to vote. And whereas on August 28, 1963, 50 years ago this month, hundreds of thousands of Americans from all religious denominations and ethnicities gathered in Washington, D.C. for the historic March on Washington for social, political, and economic equity for all people. Whereas this unique and momentous occasion and esteemed Congressman John Lewis, as well as the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and others delivered historic addresses to the world, and whereas on September 15, 1963, Denise McNair, Cynthia Wesley, Carol Robertson, Addie Mae Collins were murdered by a heinous crime of hatred when a bomb was thrown in their Sunday school at the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham. And whereas this led to riots in Birmingham that claimed the lives of 2 more youths of color. And whereas the civil rights activities of the summer of 1963 led to the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, therefore be it resolved that the sacrifices of great people never be forgotten by a grateful nation, and further the Borough media proclaimed Saturday, August 17, 2013, as a day of commemoration for the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Summer of 1963. So, proclaimed by me. So, Joan, if you don't mind, would you comment and also talk about the trip that you're planning?
Okay. we're humbled and grateful at this proclamation from the borough. We thank you deeply, and we thank you all. On Saturday, the 17th, we do have a bus going to the 50th Commemoration March in Washington, D.C. I'm sorry to tell you, it's just about full. We have 3 seats left on this bus, but we will leave at 5 o'clock in the morning. We'll be at the Lincoln Memorial by 8 or 8:30, and then the Reverend Sharpton and Mr. Martin Luther King III, who are spearheading this, plan to hold the major events at the Martin Luther King Memorial. So come on down, and we're just honored and grateful, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I would like to thank the media branch of the NAACP for all that they do for the community, with the outreach and educational programs that they provide, and one of the nonprofits that we're happy to have their home here in media. Thank you. One more little item before public comment. We would like to offer belated birthday wishes to a Media Borough resident who has lived here her whole life and celebrated her 100th birthday earlier this month. These wishes go to May Steinmetz, who still lives in her home and is happy to be active in the community, and quite a historian, especially when it comes to plants, shrubbery, and the little things that we tend to overlook. So on behalf of the borough, we want to wish you a belated birthday, Ms. Steinmetz. Now we can have our public comment and privilege of the floor. If anyone would like to address council, please come up and state your name and your address, please. All right, we'll move right along then to the engineer's report.
Thank you and good evening. The report will be brief. Starts off with the rain on Friday, July 12th. We came to the borough to request the borough to look at a few serious spots of storm water, which we're still in the process of doing some review and gathering some costs to present to the borough for some improvements, in particular 8th and L. Contractor Joseph Zucker has been awarded. I spoke with them today, back in July 31st. The tentative schedule is the end of August. They're still at that time to come in the last week, I believe Monday's the 26th, somewhere that week to start and to finish the borough that week. Various meetings attended. One item of parking was at 4th and Lemon, which I prepared and transmitted a letter memo dated July 18th to the borough about my recommendations. I did do a site review with Jim Jeffrey on 4th and Lemon. The only subdivision land development was the Planning Commission meeting for Wawa in July. And that basically summarizes the engineer's report.
Anyone have questions for the engineer? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anything to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. The mayor's report.
The borough handled a total of 746 complaints during the month of July. No reported burglaries during the month, 22 traffic details. I want to talk about 911 a little bit. Judgment is needed. Sometimes you might hear what you think are gunshots, fireworks, and you're just not sure. We did have one person that did report hearing what he wasn't sure he heard, and the police investigated, and it didn't turn up anything. But I think it's a matter of judgment of when you call 911 and when you don't, as far as what you hear in the background. And it's tough to distinguish sometimes, I know that, but I would urge people to err on the side of caution if you do hear that. Dining of the Stars, again last night, crowded, almost sold out. Over 3,000 people had dinner on State Street. A couple missteps along the way that we correct every week, but that happens. It's growing, and as it grows, there are going to be some growing pains, and we're adjusting to it. So that's it.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the mayor?
What's kind of missteps?
Yeah.
Last night, I think there are certain places like Veterans Square where we need to direct people to the walkways across as opposed to walking down the middle of the street. Chief and I stood there and watched it last night, and we thought, we had two horseshoe, whatever they're up, and people walk in the middle of it and they walk on the side. So we talked about next week adjusting that so that you only walk down the side. Maybe doing a little adjustment at Orange Street also. So they're just.
Any other questions for the mayor? Thank you. Council committee reports. Councilman Stein will be taking the reports for Mr. Davidson.
Thank you. The first item is the payment of bills. The Finance Committee reports checks drawn on the central disbursement account for the following funds. The General Fund, $217,546.64. The Recreation Fund, $6,486.67. The Liquid Fuels Fund, 0. The Capital Fund, $48,792.56, for a total of $272,825.87. The Finance Committee recommends that all bills be paid when in these amounts.
And that's in the form of
That's
a
in the
motion.
form of a motion.
Second motion?
The motion's been made and seconded to pay the bills for July. Any questions?
How much for litigation or any law and costs, or any costs whatsoever related to the 3rd Street Dam?
Mr. Smith?
2 legal invoices, one in the amount of $670, another for $1,152 for a total of $1,822 on the legal side, and one invoice in the amount of $800 for engineering for a grand total of $2,622.
Thank you.
Mr.
Any other?
Smith, do you know if the bills, the legal bills, not the engineering bills, were pertaining to the appeal or the original action?
I believe they were both related to the appeal.
Thank you.
Any further questions? The motion's been made and seconded for the payment of bills for July. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
And the motion carries.
The second order of business is Resolution 2013-09, which is the mid-year budget update. Mr. Smith, can you read that since I don't have a copy here?
Sure. Borough Council adopts a balanced budget each year, and usually after the month of June, the Finance Committee and Council take a look at the overall budget to see how the performance is going. So inevitably, when you've got anywhere from a $7 million operating and a total of a $10 million budget, inevitably you're going to transfer some of the line items. Some go higher, some go lower. So essentially what this resolution is just the Finance Committee's work at looking at the budget and making some adjustments. So the budget remains in balance, but by the same token, there's just some of the line items have gone up, some have gone down. Just highlighting, there's probably about 15 total here, but some of the bigger ones, like for instance in the capital side, the police department vehicle purchase went from $30,000 to $93,250, and that was just simply there were 2 police vehicles that were in the budget in 2012. Unfortunately, they didn't arrive until the first quarter of 2013, so it was necessary to make the adjustment for that. Some of the other ones, there was some stormwater that had gone down a little bit. We're not going to get as much stormwater work done this year, so there were just some of the adjustments. But overall, I think the Finance Committee deserves credit. The budget's in excellent financial shape. Our revenues are actually, at the present time, about 25% over, and our expenditures are about 10% below budget. So generally speaking, the borough's in great financial shape so far this year. So it's really just making some modest adjustments that will allow the Finance Committee and Council to project into fiscal year 14, which we'll be doing very, very soon. So essentially that's the resolution that you have in front of you. As I said, the budget remains in balance, and there's probably about 15 line items that are just slightly adjusted to keep up with the times.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Smith. So we are moving forward then on that resolution to accept the mid-year budget as indicated.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second a motion to pass resolution 2013-09, references mid-year budget update.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. And the motion carries.
And again, I want to just thank Mr. Smith and his staff for his budgeting expertise and his staff expertise. Number 3 is to authorize the transfer of year-end of fiscal 2012 funds to the capital reserve account. This was an item that was previously noted at an earlier meeting this year, and so that would be would that be in the form of a motion? So the motion is to transfer the year-end fiscal year 2012 funds to the capital reserve in the amount of $479,700.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to authorize the transfer of the year-end funds to the capital reserve account. Are there any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. And the motion carries. Anything else, Dr. Stein?
No, it just, we're moving forward with our overall capital plan, which is, I think, really going to be very helpful to us in trying to allocate funds in the future for large ticket items. And so this will be the first time that we've done this. And I think, Mr. Smith, did you want to comment any?
No, we just, Borough Council authorized the hiring of an intern, Villanova graduate, master's degree in public administration. Her name is Amina Katum. So she has been on board now for a couple weeks and is doing an excellent job, and she'll be reaching out to members of council, department heads, community organizations to develop a long-range plan. So she'll be in contact with everyone in the next couple of months.
Thank you. And next, Recreation and Shade Tree, Mrs. Rowe?
That's the end of my report.
I thought it was
No,
That's that report. End of that report.
that's the end of my report here. Yes, thank you.
Just a few announcements for recreation. They are hosting a children's tennis camp, which begins, I believe, next Monday. It's for children 12 to 16 years old. As always, it's taught by the instructor, Dan Sears. It's from 9 to 10 a.m. for 7 to 11-year-olds and from 10 to 11 a.m. for 12 to 16-year-olds. I'm sorry, it is from ages 7 to 16 inclusive. The cost is $10 a week for borough residents and $20 a week for out-of-borough residents. Please call the recreation office if you're interested in seeing if there are any spaces remaining available for that. The Recreation Board is hosting the annual Media Garage Sale. It will be held this year, Saturday and Sunday, September 7 and 8, from 9 to 4 p.m. There is no longer a registration form to fill out or a fee to pay. There will not be maps this year, so nothing will be distributed. It's just kind of, if you want to do it, go out and do it. I think the difference this year is that if you have anything left over on Sunday, and instead of just throwing it out to the trash or putting it to the curb, please do feel free to attend an event sponsored by Transition Town Media, which is the second annual Free Market Day. If you come on Sunday from 2 to 5 on September the 8th, you can put it all together. I believe it's at Providence Friends Meeting 105 North Providence Road in Media. So feel free to drop stuff off. They'll make sure that it gets to folks who could use the items and put it to best use. So please do participate in that. And there's much more information available on that event on the media website if you look under recreation. As always in the summer, the Recreation Committee is sponsoring some discounted tickets for different kinds of amusement parks and such. You can do anything from the Adventure Aquarium to Doherty Park, Dutch Wonderland, Hershey Park, Philadelphia Zoo. Everything is, whether it's available or not, please do reach out to the Recreation Committee or check the website to see what is available if you would like to participate. I have nothing for Shade Tree, and that concludes my report.
Any questions for Mrs. Rowe? Thank you very much. I will now talk a little bit about Properties Economic Development, Fair Trade and Farmers Market. We had put out an RFP previously for a structural engineer. We want to make sure that we are doing due diligence with all of the borough properties, and we have had some reports which include things like, painting and replacing carpeting, but we're really looking for specifics to the bare bones of structures. We own a lot of property here, including the Borough, Minshall House, and so we wanted to make sure we had someone on board. How many RFP responses did we get, Mr. Smith?
7.
7. So the Properties Committee will be meeting by the end of this month when the other members return from vacation, and we'll go through the folks that had responded and come back to council with recommendations. So that is one update on the properties. Economic development, I'm happy to announce that the national airing of the Today in America with Terry Bradshaw show, we've had several regional in different states, parts of New York City, New Jersey. This is the national airing, and this will be taking place on Sunday, August 25th. Locally here on the East Coast, it will be at 4 p.m., and the stations that will be carrying that are Verizon Channel 117 and Comcast Channel 106. So this is a half an hour long, I believe it's a half an hour in total, with segments, and media is one of the segments that will be shown. So again, that is Sunday, August 25th at 4 p.m. before the football games. The mayor made sure to tell me. At Verizon Channel 117 or Comcast Channel 106. So we'll also have that information on the website for people to post, and on the Business Authority site as well.
And you also gave the number of how many people potentially.
68+ million households
Have the opportunity.
have the opportunity to watch with the 4 different time zones. Okay. Next, moving on, I don't have anything legislative, but I do have a little comment to make about the farmers market. Mrs. Rowe, I appreciate your questions again last month about the safety of the patrons, and everything has been established as such. I was there today. You could smell the Jersey tomatoes a half a block away, which is great because I didn't get any on my vines. They continue to have great produce and a good showing. They had a very strong turnout today. And I want to remind everyone that they do accept the Pennsylvania SNAP, which I think comes under a couple different names, so that you can pay with credit cards now and get tokens to use towards it, so that we're trying to make sure that there's equity of availability to everyone, regardless of their demographic or their financial states. And finally, I want to remind parents that they have a fabulous children's program going on. It's called the Produce Passport, and the kids can go up to the manager's desk, pick up their little passport, they bring it up every week, they fill it out, the food of the week, and it's a great way to help educate kids to healthy eating habits, and they have a lot of fun. That would actually conclude my announcements. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I just want to say, I went to the market today, and it was great. I mean, it made me really happy that we have this sort of thing, and we bring community together. I want to thank the volunteers, Amy Johnson, Addie, all the other volunteers who donate their time to put together a really nice community activity, in addition to getting some really good food. I bought a bunch of stuff. I could smell tomatoes too, and but it's a great use of space. It's a great use of it's just a great way to bring people together in the community. So I want to thank all the folks who worked on that.
I do have 2 other things to mention. One, they are doing a fundraiser, and they have this beautiful handmade quilt that they're selling chances for that will be pulled in October. But also while I was there, I noticed the farmers market manager going booth to booth, taking a collection from all of the vendors there to take up to the community food bank. So it's giving and re-giving. So it's a great opportunity to take part in a good community event. I will also be taking President Hall's reports. So community development, personnel, and the Media Arts Council. The first item on the agenda is I will make a motion, and I am making a motion, to ratify the offer of employment for the administrative executive assistant position being vacated by Corinne to Ms. Karen Rapino We had already approved this hiring at our workshop meeting so that she could start sooner than this meeting and make the offer for her to accept so that Corinne has a week to help ease her into the transition period. So my motion is to ratify the offer of employment to Karen Rapino for Administrative Executive Assistant.
Second.
Are there any questions on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no. And the motion carries. The second legislative business, I'd like to make a motion to authorize our solicitor to advertise an amendment to the pension ordinance. This was discussed at the workshop meeting and will be effective for new non-union hires. Mr. Smith, would you like to add anything to that?
Sure, be happy to. The Personnel Committee and Borough Council have talked about, as Mrs. Simpson had mentioned, any new non-union employees moving away from essentially a defined benefit or what's known as a pension plan that's offered to employees. So instead of that, the Borough Council is desirous of offering a defined contribution in the form of up to a 4% match for Mrs. Rapino. So she would be the first person as a non-union staff member that would fall under the defined contribution plan. So therefore, in order to make that happen, the solicitor would have to draft an ordinance which would amend the pension ordinance, and then a secondary item would be amending the joinder agreement with the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs Municipal Retirement Trust. So it's kind of the first step in what council believes is the way to go going forward, and wanted to start with non-union personnel. So Mrs. Rapino is accepting of that, and at this point it's just allowing the solicitor to draft the ordinance for your consideration.
Is there a second to the motion? Second. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. The third piece, number 3 on the agenda, I make a motion for, in response to the request from our grant writer, Karen Tussick-Lust, for consulting services regarding the Our Town grant. This grant is being proposed for upgrades and enhancements to the full length of the Plum Street Mall. They would like to hire a consultant named Tom Moran, who works in the field of public art and serves as the chief curator and director of artistic development at Grounds for Sculpture. The reason for looking for his expertise is this is something that would enhance and strengthen the grant proposal. And we had discussed this at our workshop meeting, and I would like to go ahead and make a motion that we contract with Thomas Moran not to exceed $2,000 for his technical expertise in grant preparation.
Second.
Are there any questions?
Only that this isn't going to define what's actually put onto the, I mean, this isn't defining the design, it's his recommendations, yes.
What it is he will be assisting in the technical aspects of the questions of the grant.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. And the ayes carry. 2 more quick items while I have the floor here. Just a quick update on 2 things. One would being the Wawa. I want to remind people that next month on the 5th of September at our workshop meeting, the applicant will be presenting a plan that has been received initial approval by the Planning Commission. They will be presenting that plan at our workshop meeting. This will follow the usual review course. Everyone is welcome to come and hear their plan and their proposals. This still must go through zoning for any final approvals, and also part of the plan is contingent, for execution is contingent on ownership of Baker Street. So I just want to make sure you know, and that meeting starts at 7:30. And Mr. Smith, do we usually have those presentations at the front of the meeting?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so if you are interested, 7:30, please. Thank you for that. On 3rd Street Dam, only updates that we have, obviously there's been a lot of rain. The level of the lake, if you've noticed, has risen again. And so Borough Country Club has received a letter that's public knowledge and a public letter reinforcing the need to lower the lake for the structural safety of the dam. So we are waiting for, to see any further response from the DEP on that request. Okay, any questions for me?
For clarity purposes, the letter that went to the country club did come from DEP.
Yes, there was a letter to the board of directors of the country club from the Department of Environmental Protection. And what they really were stressing is maintaining the conduit in a free-flowing state. That was not borough responsibility, but that's the club's responsibility since it lies within their lake. So, you're welcome. Dr. Stein, Technology, Media, Business Authority, Environmental Advisory.
Yes, thank you. I have one piece for legislative action, that is Resolution 2013-10, which is concerning recycling materials. You may recall earlier that we had redefined and revised the ordinances related to recycling materials. This builds on that and identifies the recycling materials themselves, which include glass bottles and jars, which are clear, green, and brown, metal, food, and beverage cans, aluminum and steel, all plastics including styrofoam with triangle symbols number 1 and number 7, paper, including newspapers, magazines, catalogs, junk mail, soft cover books, old telephone books, paper bags, food boxes and office paper, shredded paper, cardboard, and yard waste. So the resolution is to identify those particular items. So I recommending that we move forward, putting forward the resolution 2013-10, which identifies those recycling materials.
Second the motion.
Any questions for Dr. Stein? Motion's been made and seconded to approve Resolution 2013-10. All those in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay.
Okay, and which is great. So we've kind of moved, into the 21st century in terms of our, the way we handle. There've been a number of changes prior to that. Our ordinance is over 20 years old. So, thank you. Just a few matters of informational from the NBA has received a request this is more informational. This is just going in motion. I'm just letting people know that Harry Hanunian has made a request to join the board and is in the process of submitting his materials, and those will be distributed to the council as per our standing procedure. So it's just more of an FYI that's coming up. Second is the item. Actually, Jeff, can you clarify any kind of information on the or if you don't have the information, that's fine too. On the sidewalk cleaning, is there anything that
sure.
you
Yes.
an update on that?
Yes, council had authorized the highway department to start doing that on Saturdays. So they've done that a few times so far when there's been events, and they're scheduled to start on Saturday, September 7th, and on a consistent basis we'll be cleaning up the sidewalks each Saturday morning.
Do you have a time?
They're looking at roughly 6 to 9 a.m.
6 to 9 a.m.
Yes.
Saturday mornings.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, we want to thank them for participating in the program to clean up the streets of Media, make them as clean as possible. Another FYI, this is regarding the EAC-related matters, environmental. We went ahead and, as this is a project that's been ongoing, the solar panel monitoring systems that we approved have just recently been installed. I'm waiting to get final information on the installation and their operation. So we'll have that. But what that enables us to do is actually see the performance of our solar panels and collectors, and we like to maybe tie that in with some educational activities with the local schools. So more information. It just was recently installed when Karen Toskalux comes back, we will be going over all the details on that. Just another FYI, this is related to IT. We are meeting with our information IT, i.e. is the information technology consultant, to do a strategic plan for information technology. This allows us to plan out over the next 3 to 5 years our information technology needs. And again, I think it's a big step forward for us in being able to be proactive in identifying both current operational needs but future operational needs, which can help improve our connection to various stakeholders, both within the borough but also our connection to the community and so on. So we're meeting with our consultant at the IT meeting in the next couple of weeks. We'll be going over kind of a plan of action, and he will then has scheduled interviews with a number of our key stakeholders, and so I'm just happy that that process is moving forward. Next item is just again FYI. We've implemented the Dropbox implementation, and for all indications, it seems to be working, I hope. Yes?
So far.
All right, good. So this enables us to share files effectively, and they kind of get lost in the bowels of our email systems, and I think it's a much more effective way to do that. So. Let's see. One other piece of information. Again, when the IT committee meets at the end of the month, we have received 4 proposals pertaining to the installation of audio-visual equipment for the large conference room and for this chamber. So we'll be making a recommendation based on those proposals coming up. I think. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Dr. Stein? All right, we'll move on to Mrs. Rahorek on health and historic information.
Thank you. This evening I only have one item on the agenda for legislation, which would be to ratify the hiring of a graphic design intern for the HARB board, which is the Historical Architectural Review Board. HARB last year and earlier this year did take care of all of their other guidelines, formatting them and whatnot. Now they were to the point where they needed a graphic designer to put pictures into their book. So they interviewed several applicants. They were very satisfied with a young lady named Katie Dune for the position of graphic design as an intern. They had requested having up to $2,000 in funding to pay her for her work. They said, I'll read just briefly the letter, that they were very impressed by her work samples and qualifications and are confident in her ability to produce a quality finished version of our design guidelines that will be of great use to the borough and the HARB. Based upon our meeting, we are anticipating that the finished version of the guidelines will be completed within this calendar year, and that our budget of $2,000 will be sufficient for this, which she has accepted. Her deliverable work will be in a PDF file, the guidelines, and will be available to the public through the borough's website once they have their work completed in total. They will have some copies that will be printed that people can actually take physically home with them and peruse. Otherwise, hopefully everything will be uploaded on the borough's website. And this really falls under the people who live in a historic area, or a historically designated area within Media Borough, which there are 3 of. This does not in any way force people to be historically accurate when they redo their homes in any way. It's just merely a guideline as to what you should do. If you have a home that is 1800s, early 1900s, there are guidelines of how your house should look within a certain area of media. So they were very happy with her, and this evening we're just really going to ratify the hiring of this young lady, since we already did kind of vote on this at the last workshop meeting. So I'm asking that in the form of a motion that we ratify the hiring of the graphic design intern, Katie Dune.
Second.
Any questions for Mrs. Moore? Motion's been made and seconded to ratify the hiring of Katie Dune for the Historical Architectural Review Board. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. And the motion carries.
I have nothing under health this evening, other than to once again reiterate that we've had a lot of rain, there's a lot of moisture out there, mosquitoes are breeding like crazy. So please be mindful of standing water. If you have water barrels, ponds, hot tubs, pools, anything that can catch water, please be careful. Get some dumps that are environmentally friendly, and make sure that we don't let this population explode any more than it already is. And lastly, Mitchell House is still open for tours on Sundays from 1 to 4. They will be closed on Labor Day weekend, but will continue into mid-September. So please stop by and check out Mitchell House. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
I will be very brief. Good evening, everybody. First, as I like to state each month, regarding our media volunteer fire company, anybody who would like to serve both as a firefighter and or the administrative services, please feel free to contact the fire department. They are always looking for volunteers. For the month of July, the fire department had 30 calls. 12 were of immediate, 18 mutual aid, in which 3 we were not able to respond. 5 drills, no major incidents and or injuries. With regards to legislative action, as Dr. Stein had referenced with the IT department, the police department is moving into the 21st century. For years, we have been writing handwritten tickets. Those handwritten tickets then come back to the Borough Police Department. All those tickets are then manually entered into another system, and then as the tickets are paid, it is manually referenced that those tickets are paid. So skipping past a little bit past the IT committee and the 5-year plan, upon review of the IT committee, we are moving forward with handheld ticketing technology. This technology will allow us to digitally input the ticket, put the ticket on the card. That information will be then electronically transferred back to the station. It is my hope from reviewing other municipalities that somewhere in the near future we will have the ability to have the recipients of these tickets be able to pay for their tickets online, so they would not be required to come into borough facilities, expedite the matter. But also what this will really do is we're also modifying our parking enforcement officers' responsibilities. Historically, they have had somewhat of a split responsibility between being a crossing guard and parking enforcement. We will now have a dedicated crossing guards, as well as a staff of, and what I'm going to reference is, it's more important to reference as far as the hours. So we'll have 98 hours of parking enforcement officers on the streets. This will allow us to provide greater presence in our residential neighborhoods. Also, it is under discussion with public safety and personnel with regards to having the parking enforcement officers also having varied time schedules. So we may have some coming in earlier in the morning, others staying later, discussions with pertaining to Saturday enforcement, etc. But with this, I would like to make a motion that we approve the contract for the products and services of Information Technologies located in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. This will be both software and hardware for the electronic ticketing at a total cost of $19,150, which is actually providing us a 10% discount as long as we order the orders put in by October 14th of 2013. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the contract referenced for $19,150 each.
Second?
Are there any questions on the motion?
I just want to make a couple of comments. We are very supportive of, I speak on behalf of the IT committee, so we're very supportive of moving ahead with that. I think in previous discussions on that, you know, we understand the broad, we support the use of this, both the software and the hardware. We wanted to ensure, however, that it is a perfect match for what we've got and just moving forward. So what we wanted to do is perhaps have our IT consultant, just who's going to be doing the planning, make sure that this conforms to the long-term plan. I think that recommendation was made a couple of months ago to defer the authorization for this until the strategic planner had a chance to at least weigh in and see how that fit into kind of an overall strategic plan. Just to make sure that, I mean, software is very complex. There are a number of different configuration options that often go with software that work with particular devices. We just want to make sure that we're buying a solution that's going to last us the next 5, 10, or 20 years. Probably not 20 years, but at least the next 5 to 10 years. So I would recommend, on behalf of the IT community, I also was waiting to hear from Mr. Davidson, his input on some of the technical issues here. Did not get that response from him prior to this meeting. So I would like to recommend that we defer this to the September meeting, passing this, just so that we can have a couple of other set of eyes look at that and fit it into the overall plan. Specifically, the IT strategic plan consultant. We'll meet with him at the end of the month.
Dr. Stein, I know that you've been away. This has been discussed in prior council meetings. This has been reviewed by Mr. Davidson. It is an agreement with Mr. Davidson. The software that we're currently using to supply all the data to our police department is through this firm and through the software.
I'm well aware
So,
of that.
with all due respect, I have a motion. I will not defer it. We need to take action. I plan on taking action, and I hope I have the members that will understand that this has been discussed. You weren't at the last workshop, and this is something that's been discussed. I have a motion on the table, and I make a motion that we
made, and with all
Madam
due
Vice
respect,
President, there's a motion on the table which I'd ask for a vote.
well,
Just a moment, please. If I can, we did, I will support Mr. Robinson. This was discussed, and Mr. Smith, if you have anything to add to the fact that this is a separate system, the police department is a separate system, and that these devices and the software is actually made to work with the system that the police officers have.
I know, I understand that.
Okay, so I'm not sure what your hesitation is when it's already been discussed.
Well,
It's already been.
the IT committee made the recommendation 3 months ago to incorporate this into the long-term strategic plan. I stand by that recommendation that was made. I'm objecting to, I'm suggesting that we wait 1 more month so that our IT strategic planning, I don't see the immediacy of this issue.
Well, the motion's been made and seconded, and I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor of the handheld enforcement devices for the contract agreement at $19,150, please say aye.
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 All those opposed say no,
No.
and the motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Any other questions for Councilman Robinson?
Yeah, I have a comment. Didn't you mention something that happened today that you'd like to talk about?
It didn't happen. I am very pleased to say that as of Monday at 4:48, I became a grandfather. My daughter had a baby boy. Bob is very proud of his name, Logan Joseph McGahee. So you can't get much more Irish than that.
That had nothing to do with the
Baby and mother doing great, and yes, it's very exciting to be a grandfather, but on the other side, all of a sudden it's like, now I'm a grandfather. So, yes, thank you very much.
Welcome to the club.
Congratulations. We'll now have a final public comment and privilege of the floor. If anyone would like to come up and address council, please come to the microphone, state your name and your address.
Actually, I only have a question.
If you have a comment?
No, I actually have a question. Sarah Dixon, and I'm on 6th Street in Media. I'm just wondering if I know that the farmers market is they take SNAP, and I'm wondering if they also take the state's produce vouchers. They're mostly given out to seniors.
Yes, they do.
Okay, that's all I want to know, thanks.
Thank you for clarifying. Thank you. Anyone else? Then I'll call for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.